Greetings, Benjamin J. from BENZTRAINZ with another in the series. Well, still experimenting with lighting cars. In this case, this is a Marx 490, as you can tell. And this is a dummy that I built. I got this some months ago, and it had a broken side plate, and the axle kept popping out. So I just popped off the intermediate gear and put a wire tie through the contactor plate to hold this axle in place. Like I said, the side plate was broken right there. In any case, this is a dummy that I made. Cut a hole in the front, or a slot, for a chopped off tab and slot coupler, and then built a small shelf out of epoxy putty to mount that front coupler to. And it actually works quite well. Anyway, I just put a light in this and wanted to do a quick video. Now, I got some colored light bulbs from a viewer in Canada, and his name's Greg, and I've been talking to him for the last, several weeks, and he was kind enough to send me a couple of packages of colored light bulbs. In this case, I've installed a red one in the 490, as you see, and I use this just as a piece of rolling stock. It's great for a double header, or in this case, I'm using it strictly as a piece of rolling stock. And it still has some heft. I left the armature in it, but it is just a dummy. It doesn't run, it doesn't do anything. It's just a body with a dead motor in it. Anyway, to add a light bulb to a 490 is really, really straightforward. You solder one wire to the main contactor. Of course, let me focus this camera. You solder one wire to the main contactor and one wire to the copper strip that provides ground. That rubs directly on one of the axles. As you can see, this is really easy to do. So one wire goes to that copper strip, provides ground, one wire goes to the main contactor, and you have a light bulb in this 490, as you see. So in any case, I'm going to put this on a consist and pull it around the track, and I just wanted to do a quick video on this. I built this 490 dummy some time ago and just got around to putting a light in it. And since Greg was kind enough to send me those bulbs, I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to try it and see how it works. So let's put this on the rail and we'll pull this around. Like I said, it's just a piece of rolling stock, but it's great for doing a double header. In this case, I'm using it strictly as a piece of rolling stock. Let's take this around. As you see, the light comes on. So a red headlight in a dummy 490. And it's surprising, just adding a light to one of these dummy locomotives really brings them to life. So it is basically just a piece of rolling stock. But it looks cool. It works. Really simple, costs nothing, just an old junk locomotive. And when I bought this and discovered that it had that broken side plate, I immediately decided to make a dummy out of it. So like I said, adding light bulb to one of these dummy locomotives, it really brings it to life. In this case, I put a red headlight in it, and it actually doesn't look too bad. Really simple to do. It only takes a minute to add a light to a 490. And you can use a grain of wheat bulb. You can put a full-size light bulb in it. All you have to do is have a socket, or you can just solder wires onto a bulb and tape it in there. Lots of ways to add power to these things. So, an interesting experiment. I've been meaning to put a light in this for some time and just never got around to doing it. And then when Greg was kind enough to send me those bulbs, I figured this was the perfect time to add light to this dummy 490. Like I said, you can use it for double headers. You can use it as a piece of rolling stock, which is what I'm using it for. but it works. That's the neat thing about it. Like I said, it's really simple to add a light to a 490. It actually only takes a minute. And you just solder a wire to the contactor and one to the copper strip that's supplying ground to the motor. Like I said, it is really, really straightforward to do this. As you can see, it is really simple. So one wire goes to the main contactor, one wire goes to that copper strip that is riding directly on the axle, and it gives you a good solid ground and basically a flicker-free light bulb. You can see how simple this is. It's really straightforward. It only takes a minute to do this. And I just took that bulb and wrapped some black tape around it and just got it jammed into that hole for right now. And I had thought of putting a full-size bulb in there, but I would have to mount a socket, and then you've got this wide open hole on the bottom, and that light's just going to come pouring out of there. So you'd have to block it somehow. Well, I guess you wouldn't have to, but it's not going to look right with all that light open on the bottom that way. But this small bulb actually works quite well. And I just, like I said, just wrapped a bit of black tape around it and shoved it down into the hole. Good enough for now, but like I said, it's really simple and straightforward to add a light to a 490, as you see, if you have the bulb to do it with, of course. So you could mount a socket in a full-size bulb and then just block it off so the light doesn't come pouring out the bottom. In this case, you can just put a grain of wheat bulb in there, which is what I did. In this case, a red one. And there was a red one, a green one, and a yellow one in the package. So I just grabbed the red one, thought it'd be an interesting addition to this 490. As you see, it makes a virtually flicker-free light. It's actually quite bright. Get this focused, there we go. As you can tell, absolutely flicker-free. No muss, no fuss. You can put a white bulb in it. You can put a yellow, green, any color you want. But in this case, since I had the red one, I thought I would just stick it in there and light this dummy up and see how it worked. It actually works quite well. And I'll put this on backwards and just tow it around the rail. There we go. As you see. So it works, and it gives you a really unique piece of rolling stock. In this case, another locomotive. Complete dummy, of course. But it works. And it's interesting. You can make double headers with it. And like I said, just adding a light bulb brings these things to life. Rather than just having this dead locomotive running around the rail, you now have a lighted locomotive running around the rail. So it's interesting. Anything you can add that makes the layout or makes the consist more interesting is always fun. In this case, it didn't cost anything. It only took a minute to do it. Literally, it only took a minute to do it. And it's a great way to make use of a junk engine that wasn't going to run. Now, these micro motors are difficult to fix, simply because they're modular. They're not made like a full-size motor. And there is no practical way to fix it. So, like I said, I just put a wire tie around that axle to hold it in place since the side plate was broken. I popped off the intermediate gear and turned it into a dummy. And now that it has a light bulb in it, really brought it to life. And it's red, so it makes it different, makes it interesting if nothing else. As you see. So anyway, it's a really simple way to add a light to a Marx 490 with a micro motor. Like I said, you can put a full-size white light bulb in it. It just depends on what you want to do. But in this case, since I had that small bulb, I figured I'd just mount it in there. It's really straightforward. It's really simple to do it. It only takes a minute. And 2 wires. And like I said, you solder 1 wire directly to the contactor and 1 wire to the copper strip that is supplying ground. It's basically just a copper strip rubbing the axle. It's straightforward. It's easy. It's simple. Costs virtually nothing to do this. It takes 2 minutes to solder those wires. And then, like I said, I just took the bulb and wrapped a bit of black tape around it to make it a nice snug fit, and then just shoved it into the hole, and it works. So it's simple, straightforward, inexpensive, and it brings one of these dummies back to life. Now, of course, you can push it around the rail, which gives you the illusion that this locomotive is actually pulling this consist. As you see, let me turn the power off, flip it into forward, and it gives you the illusion that this steam locomotive is pulling this entire consist. Of course it isn't, it's being pushed, but you would never know that by looking at it, as you can tell. It definitely looks like it's pulling it. So you can do a lot with a dummy locomotive. They're fun to play with. You can add a lot to the consist. You can use it for making double headers. You can use it as rolling stock. And in this case, it was just an old dead locomotive that had almost no use at all. And just by turning it into a dummy and adding that front coupler, you brought it back to life and gave it a purpose. And like I said, looking at this, you would never know that's being pushed. You think it's pulling that entire consist. So, as I always stress, don't overlook the junk. And this thing was trash. It wasn't worth fixing, and it was just I picked this thing up really cheap. Anyway, like I said, it had that broken side plate, and it wouldn't run at all. There was no practical way to fix it. So rather than discarding it, I just turned it into a dummy, and it comes in really handy. And like I said, you can use it for a piece of rolling stock. You can use it for doing double headers. You can use it for all kinds of things. Now that it has some power, it's actually brought it to life, and it has a light bulb or a headlight. In this case, a red one. Like I said, you can put a yellow one, a green one, a white one, anything you want in there. In this case, as I had the red one, I thought it would be a nice touch to have a lighted dummy with a red headlight. Anyway, I just wanted to do a quick video on this. It's really simple, straightforward, and it's really easy to do. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email, BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.